How's it going, ladies and bruises? I'm Sixkilla and welcome back to Sekimeiya. In the last episode, shit really kicked off. It got really interesting really fast when the Sekimeiya seemingly transported us back in time. Not very far, but enough to make some weird claims make sense in the short term. But I don't know what that is going to extend to, whether that's its power or when they found it after it had teleported us back, it seemed inert. So maybe you can only do it once. Maybe only works on us. Oh, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But I'm very intrigued to see what happens next. Let's carry on, shall we? We pretty much explored this entire building, so now it's going to be about figuring out what happened. Although all the suspicion is on us at the moment, thanks to Katai, that traitorous piece of shit. Anyway, did I travel to the past? I couldn't have. That's impossible. Even if such a thing were possible, would everything hold up? I have no idea what caused it, but if the others didn't knock me out, I must have teleported in some way. I guess travelling to the past only adds a bit more impossibility to that. At least one thing would begin to make sense if that's what happened. Earlier when I glanced at this room, Naomi was already dead. Didn't Katai say that? That I was on this floor during the time Naomi died? Through normal means, I wouldn't have been able to be on the crystal floor. I was upstairs, and it would have been noticed if I'd headed down. That would make it impossible. It would be absurd to immediately justify Katai's accusations like this, but it would explain why he decided to make such a nonsensical claim in the first place, and it would make a lot of what he said believable. I'd seen it countless times, time travel appearing out of nowhere to construct crazy events. I'd experienced many stories that were ruined by such an exploitable mechanic. Thinking about it, I felt as if the same thing was happening to my reasoning. If I couldn't explain my own experience, did I have to assume that time traveling was possible? Had it been a factor the whole time? I thought about the full sequence of events up until that point. If they were somehow related to time travel, how were we supposed to think about that? What would be more reasonable? To deny its existence and ignore my unexplained experience, or to think that it could be possible? I felt no enthusiasm thinking about either option, so I thought back on the previous few minutes. How would this even work? Whenever time travel comes up, the word paradox is usually thrown all around. Depending on its rules, the way time travel works can greatly differ. One simple type of paradox is the famous going back to the past and preventing your birth. Would you instantly disappear, or would you live a life in a world where you never existed? Either way, the past was changed. On the other side is the bootstrap paradox. You find a key, open the door with it, find a time travel machine inside, use it to go back to the past, and finally place the key on the floor so that your past self can find it. In that case, did time travel matter at all? The past was not changed, so by travelling back you only understood how it all came to happen. Essentially it's a loop without a starting point, and it only occurred because it occurred. That's a concept far from sensible. It would come in handy to justify grand motives in a story, but it's nothing short of completely impractical. However, no matter how I feel, I think that everything points to this direction. That if I have just travelled to the past, I haven't actually changed anything. It seems like I just re-experienced the events I'd previously lived. The starting point seems to have been making physical contact with the Sekimeiya, as nothing that I did once I arrived in the past directly led to my travel. I'm not sure I'd quite perceive it as that kind of paradox. Looking ahead though, it seems that I unconsciously repeated the past I'd lived with Shiroya. Just a minute ago you were looking inside that cabinet. According to this, I can draw that I supposedly went back about 20 minutes to the past. That's the time I estimate I spent confusingly looking around for people. By that point, Naomi had already been killed, shortly after I took the elevator that was on this floor up to the 6th. This cleanly holds up with what we experienced. At that point, the elevator was on the crystal floor, as it had probably already arrived when we'd heard it on the 5th. Then I went up to the 6th. Then when I went up to the 6th would be when Shiroya and I hurriedly followed it up. What the hell is this? Did I, without being aware of it, replicate the past I'd experienced? I think that something curious happened when we chased the elevator up. If the elevator hadn't been empty, we had to assume that whoever had gone up had entered the attic. The only other explanation was the person inside had vanished. But it seems what I just went through explains what actually occurred. I got out of the elevator and looked through the 6th floor. The corridor appeared empty, and I spent a bit of time inside the partitions. As I was there, Shiroya and another version of myself were chasing me. They called the elevator to the 5th floor, but as I saw earlier, that wouldn't have made a noticeable sound from where I was. Then, as I remember, The previous me stayed next to the elevator while Shiroya looked through the two main parts of the floor. She also mentioned how she first looked through the opposite corridor. She and I saw each other when I was about to continue looking for people. She was about to look through the partitions. That's why she reacted the way she did. From her perspective, I should have been next to the elevator, but where she found me, my job still would have worked. From there you can still prevent anyone from escaping, so she thought I'd moved from next to the elevator to outside the partitions. So to her it appeared as if the floor had been empty. She didn't realise that she'd actually seen the person who brought the elevator up. "Oh, you're here. I found something." That was her reaction when she thought I'd slightly moved. Similarly, when she was done investigating, something she said did throw me off a little. But look, this is what I wanted to show you. She was referencing what she told me just a few seconds prior, unaware that she wasn't talking to the same person. When she reacted coldly to my presence and saw that she'd found something in the corridor, I thought I had to look at it. So I went to check. During that time, she confirmed the partitions were empty. I didn't see anything of importance in the corridor because what she had found was the attic door itself. I entered the partitions to demand a further explanation, but she was already talking to the previous me next to the elevator. When I left, the two of them had gone around to inspect the door that they'd just discovered. And later I spent a few minutes inside the partitions of the 5th floor, so I didn't notice Arcado going up or the three of us going down. After a while, I continued looking through every floor until I reached the point I'd travelled from. Even though I couldn't easily accept such a concept, it neatly explained many things. Was it all a ridiculous coincidence? A trick, maybe? Do you intend to answer? I kept quiet for a few seconds. Once I thought of the possibility, answers had quickly fallen into place. Something so outlandish certainly sounded impossible under any normal circumstances, but the simple fact was that it had happened to me. Unless there was another explanation I was missing, I had no choice but to accept it. I don't have a reason to deny that travelling to the past seems to be the most likely answer. Rather, it's the only one. Pathetic. You were accusing me of being a bad liar, Sai? If that was what truly had happened, it also meant that Katai had to be the killer. The elevator going up had been my doing, so there'd been no one else on the 1st floor. Nobody had gone to the attic. But that a line of reasoning that time travelling closed was another one that had opened. That was the can of worms that thinking about possibilities involving time travel opened. Yeah, after all, I'd randomly teleported to hallway A. Someone could have been on the same floor, killed Naomi before we'd thoroughly investigate it, and then travelled through time to an entirely different place. There was still one thing to keep in mind. The first time the elevator had gone down, it was probably someone had been in the attic before we heard it. Possible. Someone had been in the attic before we heard it. They could have gone down with the elevator, killed Naomi, and then travelled to the past, back inside the attic. Thinking about type possibilities with such uncertain and volatile mechanics was impossible. So according to you, his claim is as bad or worse than yours. But yours were all easily disproven. Can you give an alternative to what Atsuki's saying? Do you intend to say that because I don't know how he made it out, he must have time travelled? For the love of God, Sai. And you were trying to act smart. Well, let me tell you something. If Atsuki didn't time travel, he can't be Naomi's killer. If he did though, it's still an option. Sai and Shiroya had realised the same thing. I had really been there by the time she'd died. Okay, it might happen to explain that Katai saw Atsuki here, but it doesn't make it any less insane. Why not? I think it makes sense. What? Don't be silly, we can't use time travel to explain anything. Why not? I'd say it's a fair question. By the way, it seems Katai was right about something. The Sekimeiya appears to have broken, right? We were all shocked by that question, but we quickly understood what he meant. It had changed colours to a much less pleasant grey. See? This is all because it was removed from the cabinet. Are you sure? It was still white when I saw it. Go ahead and prove that. Did you put it there and just want to avoid facing the consequences? Shut up, God. This is what Atsuki asked about earlier. It's a function to regulate the cabinet's temperature, is it not? Yes, but it's set to room temperature. It's slightly damaged though. And let's think, out of all of us, who would hide the Sekimeiya in a place that has a cold temperature function? Even when I'm proven innocent, you still insist on suspecting me. You've never been proven innocent. And this guy was scared out of his mind at his bosses, remember? He would be dumb enough to hide the Sekimeiya here after he told us that story. Do I have to repeat it? The cold function wasn't activated. Who cares about that? It was still hidden here of all places. You'd also be the only one to know about the function of the cabinets, right? What? Didn't Atsuki notice too? That's why he appeared intrigued by the cabinet while he was being accused, acting as if he'd found the Sekimeiya he had hidden. I bet he hid it there to frame me after I explained the cold rule. That's not what happened, and the cameras will eventually prove it. I'm sure they will. For now, let's hurry up and put this thing where it belongs, just in case it's not too late. Yeah, sure, we can try that. Holding the Sekimeiya in his hands, Sai closed the cabinet, which made a metallic sound, as if it had locked automatically. Then, he left the room, followed by Katai. Shiroya was still unaware of what to say, and Arcano and Erina kept looking at me with uncertainty. We were in front of the event room. I squeezed my eyes shut and rubbed at the bridge of my nose, remembering that someone in the building had actually died. Things were moving too fast. A death, moving through time after touching a gem. But it would have been even more dangerous to stop thinking. Before I entered the room, I realized that something else went against the theory that Katai hadn't killed Naomi. Sai was holding the Sekimeiya with his hands. However, I recalled feeling a painful burn on my fingers during the split second before I disappeared from the room. At that moment, the Sekimeiya had been glowing white. So, if it was still the same object, it meant it had changed colours as soon as I travelled. In other words, it had powered off. So if anyone had consciously vanished from the first floor after killing Naomi, it should have powered off just like that. Just like it had when I'd been the one to travel. I couldn't know how it worked, but the fact that I'd seen it glowing might have indicated that nobody had travelled before me. In other words, that Katai was the only suspect. In addition, the Sekimeiya had been inside the locked cabinet. To travel and leave it inside, the culprit must have had to shut themselves inside it and then touch the Sekimeiya. There was another problem though. I didn't think about it until we all entered the room. Touching the Sekimeiya made me travel to the past, ignoring how an item with such an obvious power could have made it to a place where they'd let us touch it. Something directly contradicted its powers. Earlier, Isla had touched it inside its cabinet, and so had Shiroya. Following that, Sai had even gotten it out of the cabinet while holding it with his hands, and none of them had teleported at all. Was I the difference? Since I hadn't touched it back then, I couldn't discern whether the differing factor had been the person to touch it, or something about the Sekimeiya itself. Didn't Katai say that that wasn't the Sekimeiya? Well, someone said that. It was a different one, a different stone. Maybe it wasn't actually powered off. It could be that Sai couldn't travel. Can I touch it again? Of course, have it. He handed me the grazed gemstone. I felt no burn and I remained where I was. However, I was able to appreciate the smooth surface of the Sekimeiya, which had definitely not disappeared with its beautiful white. You're putting on such a pathetic show, you should know that. You're beginning to get on my nerves. I know how crazy I sound, but if anyone's been putting on a pathetic show from the start, it's been you. Oh, he caught you. Burn. This is unbelievable. Put it in the cabinet already. He's not wrong though. I didn't want to argue further, so I opened the glass covering the covering and placed it inside. The colder temperature became easily noticeable as I left it on top of the cushion. Then I closed it again and everyone remained staring at the mysterious source of the day's incident. What? Did it change back? It did. Yes, it's white. We all saw it firsthand a couple of seconds after I put the Sekimeiya in the cabinet and regained its old white glow. That's interesting. The temperature brought it back. That's it then. We must not take it out of here until the front door's open. It's clear that will bring us a bunch of issues with Ashiya. Katai, this thing made Atsuki travel through time. Can you shut up for a second about goddamn Ashiya? You were right. The cold fixed it. So isn't it strange? According to your story from earlier, the original finder of the Sekimeiya realized the cold was needed. If this continued you to the past, they must certainly have touched and tried all sorts of things to keep it stable. Could they have not noticed its power? What power? Kid, this thing will not send you to the past. Something like that is impossible. Didn't we touch it earlier? Esau definitely held it and nothing happened to her. That's true. Why didn't it make me go anywhere? Because it's just a gemstone? Well, it appears to have fixed itself. Should we test it? I'm beginning to wonder if you process any of what I say. We're not taking this out of here again. Okay, sure thing. Sai's insincere reply left us with a few seconds of silence. Erina was the one to break it with a curious expression. Isn't that a lock? I tilted my head to look at where Erina was pointing. Under the keyhole, on the left side of the cabinet, there was a small arrow directed to the word unlocked, with locked being right under it. That just indicated the status of the cabinet, right? Let me see. With a finger I rotated the dial. It didn't appear to move at first, but as soon as I applied a bit of pressure, it gave out and locked itself into place with a click. Did I lock it? Sai next to the glass tried to scroll it down. Yeah, I think so. I did hear a sound coming from here. I attempted to set it back to unlock, but it was impossible. You must actually need the key for that. So we can lock it manually, but we not unlock it again. That's almost fair. Katai, you work here, right? Do you not know about this mechanism, with how much you insisted to keep the Sekimeiya inside? I didn't. It seems changes were made to the cabinet, as the others don't possess this function. Well, congratulations, you did it. Now we'll have to keep it here for the remainder of the day. Ashiya will be pleased. Since we'd evidently not looked through the cabinet well enough, I inspected it further. Shortly I noticed something else. There's an outlet behind it, and the cabinet's connected to it. It's the cold, right? Of course, it's needed for the temperature regulation. Every cabinet with that function has to be connected to a power supply. It had already happened a few times, but once again, the immediate shock of hearing something we couldn't have heard infested the room. From outside, we all distinctly heard the sound of a door closing. That was a door, right? Shit, there's actually someone else here. We all hurried to open the right door, but we were stopped by Sai. What are you doing? Someone look at hallway A too. The staircase is there, so we can't leave all from here. Sai, Shiroya and Akito exited through the right door, since they'd been next to it. I've been to the left of the cabinet, so I went with the others through the left door. As usual, hallway A appeared empty. We'd continuously done the same thing, but it seemed we'd had to search it one more time. Was it really possible a hidden culprit had remained unspotted for that long? The question had already come back. Looking through the whole tower left me exhausted, so I moved to the lobby door to make sure nobody was there and to keep watching the hallway. The atmosphere continuously shifted in the span of a few seconds. After looking at the empty hallway C, Editor and Isla entered every room together, while Katai checked through some others to speed up the process. My position guaranteed that nobody could come out of a room while the others were busy inspecting them. I sighed deeply. If nothing was found in either of the two hallways, would we have to move upward once again and look through every floor? The door we'd heard couldn't have closed on its own. Surprisingly, the others were taking a while with every room, as they knew that they all contained cabinets with empty interiors big enough to fit a person. While I stared ahead, I realised that making such an obvious sound seemed to defy the persistent stealth of the culprit. About 10 minutes later, the search in our hallway concluded. I could hear Isla, who was still holding up surprisingly well, had slowed them down, constantly asking to stay with the gems for longer. My group came to me and reported the result I'd already seen. The mechanical room still remained unchecked, so since I stayed put, I told them to make sure nobody appeared in the hallway while I went to inspect it myself. On the way, I looked at a few drawers that the reception desk had, which was only filled with papers. Downstairs, I was reminded of the fact that such an off-putting place existed on the same floor. Being alone there was much different from the time I'd looked through it with Sai, and when I considered that I was searching for a hidden culprit that could easily catch me off guard, tension constricted my body once more. Fortunately, it wasn't a big space, so declaring it as empty was easy. I went back up to see my group, where I'd left them, and I saw the others were by the end of hallway B. I approached my group first. Editor told me that nothing was happening in hallway A, so we walked to C and regrouped. Nothing, huh? Yeah, the rooms were all empty. So if a person made that noise, they must be above us right now. Someone watched your hallway to make sure it was always being observed, right? Yes, I did. We also checked the bathrooms once we were done. Who remained outside in yours? It was Atsuki. Oh, my friend Atsuki, that's good. Say, did Katai look at any room by himself? I did. Are you implying that perhaps I ignored something on purpose? Yep. Stay here. Sorry for slowing the process down, but I can't take his word for it. So I stepped into hallway A. He didn't ask for the rooms Katai had entered and simply went ahead and looked through all of them. I couldn't blame him for suspecting Katai, and the rest of us felt the same. There was no complaint besides Katai's outraged look. After the smoky crystal room, Sai entered the storeroom. We expected him to silently move on to the next one again, but once he exited, he directed his look at us to show what he had between his hands. Upon processing the sight, we ran to him in a daze. What? Was it in the storeroom? Held in Sai's hands was the Sekimeiya. It was white, as being touched hadn't changed its colour at all. Yes, I found it hidden behind a sofa. Without warning, he moved the object to make contact with my skin. It scared me a bit, but nothing happened. So it's not working now. Anyway, Katai, did you look through this room? Yes. Not only that, but it was the first one he entered. That's true, I remember. But that's because it's the furthest room from this side. I was looking for a person, so I didn't look behind the sofa. What a convenient excuse. Do you actually think I hid it? I couldn't have done that. We locked the cabinet. Atsuki, was Katai the last person to exit the event room? You might have had a key. I don't know, but we all left very fast. I don't think you could have had the time. Someone stay here. This floor has been confirmed to be empty, but we need to check the event room while making sure nobody can move between the floors. Alright, we'll stay behind. Can't we go to Isla? Enough. You all can go. Let's see what happened. Editor and Isla stayed where they were. That'd have been the safest option so far. But that time, staying in an uncertain spot such as the stairs was more dangerous than moving through a floor we deemed empty. Something Editor must not have realised. Nonetheless, the rest of us agreed and curiously entered the event room once again. It's really not here. How's that possible? Raising the curtain revealed that the Sekimeiya we'd left there a few minutes ago was gone. It shouldn't be, right? We made sure nobody was in the two hallways. That's why I said the last person to exit must have already had it. Look, it's unlocked. Of course it is. Katai might have the key. I already said that I don't have it. There's no way I could have unlocked this cabinet. Could he have unlocked it even if he had it? Did he enter this room again? Not that I saw. When we were done, I went to the mechanical room, so he might have had his chance. Editor would have brought it up though. I see, so he had an opportunity. But there's no way he did that, right? Our group was done quickly, so we could have appeared at any moment, and Editor would have had to keep this from us. It's amusing to see that now you have to resort to this to keep suspecting me. Editor wouldn't lie to you. Weren't we all liars a second ago? And what else makes sense? Did it disappear magically? Well, it made me teleport. Would it be crazy to think that maybe it did? Yeah, maybe it just teleports itself. Maybe it travels in time on its own and we just happened to be touching it when it triggered itself. Maybe it goes through cycles. And it unlocked the cabinet too, right? Did the fucking Sekimeiya send the cabinet to the past when it wasn't unlocked and just stroll on out of it? It didn't discard the possibility of you travelling to the past purely because nothing else explained what had happened. This has a simple explanation. Katai did it. I know that you think you didn't have the time, but I don't care about that. I left this room when he was inside, so for all I know, he could have easily done it, even if all of you are lying. Well, you're free to think that. I highly doubt it though. It seems that your reasoning has stopped being so influenced by Sai. That's good, Atsuki. Shut up, Katai. You're the one blaming me, asshole. Now put the Sekimeiya in the cabinet at once. It hasn't changed colours yet. Fine, there you go. Sai put it in the cabinet and closed the glass. It was a slightly funny sight after hearing him say that we wouldn't take it out again. Do we lock it? Do we lock it? Why would we? Katai will be able to keep getting it out anyway. You can watch everything I do if you desire. I will never get the Sekimeiya out of here. You said that Naomi had the only key to open this cabinet, right? The only one I'm aware of, yes. And you killed Naomi, so I guess you've got it. But the culprit must have a key. We saw her unlocking the cabinet before the smoke appeared. If the culprit didn't take it, could anyone have picked it up from your dead body? So I checked your pulse, isn't that right? I did. Maybe you mean to say that the key was by her neck? No, but only you approached her. That was after you killed her though. Sounds to me like you had a much better opportunity. So I couldn't have picked it up. I was paying attention. Thank God someone's confident enough. Nobody else checked their corpse after that, so the key must have already been gone. Why don't we go and see if we can find it? Sure. So I opened the hallway A door to indicate to Edina and Isla that we'd go check the other hallway. They're still there. Let's go see if we can find the key. Opposite to the event room in hallway B was the room where we found Naomi, B4. The last time, we hadn't looked through her body. He wants to search for it, I'd do it, but I don't want to be suspected even more. Nobody volunteered. Being close to a corpse is already enough for us. Fine, I'll do it, but if I find it, don't suggest that I could have skillfully placed it in one of her pockets. Go ahead already. Sai started feeling every pocket of Naomi's clothing. It didn't take long for him to find something. Here, these are keys. Yeah, this is the pocket where she had the cabinet key. Sai was holding a keyring containing 3 keys, 2 big ones and a small one. It's none of those. They wouldn't fit. Yeah, that's what I thought. Do you know what these 3 open? One opens the door in the floor 2 staircase. I don't know about the other 2 though. So she doesn't have a key for the cabinet? Let me keep looking. Sai searched her remaining pockets, but they were all empty. It seems not. Her killer took the cabinet key after killing her. And we all know who that was. Katai looked at me while everyone else looked at him. Don't try it again, Katai. You must have killed Naomi and then unlocked the cabinet with your key. You proved yourself to be quite stupid a few times, so you must have hidden the Sekimeiya in a room you looked through, hoping we'd ignore it. That's ridiculous. I have no reason to do that, let alone the time. It's baffling how you don't realize only Atsuki could have done this. What now? You killed Naomi, so naturally you got your hands on the key. Then while you were looking at hallway A from the lobby, you went to the event room, you unlocked the cabinet, and left the Sekimeiya in a room I'd searched in order to frame it. There's no other way. Don't you know how risky that'd be? He could have been seen at any time. Likewise, if you intend to blame me, you're implying I took the same risk. Yeah, but you're dumb. The difference is that Atsuki had a reason to move it, to frame me. If his plan succeeded, I would have been the main culprit, however by hiding it, I wouldn't gain anything. Neither of your motives are enough, and Atsuki would have been more likely to be seen with the Sekimeiya. You won't convince anyone. Why don't we do a thorough search then? Let's search each other and see who has the key. Of course not. Nobody would be dumb enough to keep it on themselves. I bet you already disposed of it in another one of the rooms you've inspected. Even though he said that, I still showed my empty pockets. Atsuki doesn't have a motive. Please stop accusing him. There's so much blood. So this is where everything happened. And to do this to someone in front of a camera, you need to have a very strong reason. We need to find the person who did this to Naomi. They made that noise earlier. Look at Naomi's face. She must have been so scared and worried. And being afraid of this happening might even be why she hid from us. That's what she said, right, Arcado? That she looked very preoccupied when she appeared. She must have been innocent, and the real culprit took her life. And why would they do that? It's true that she looked like the culprit, and that's why I still think she was. By killing her, they need to be telling us that she was innocent. Or involved in a way that's harmful for the culprit. We need to know what happened to her, and find the real person behind it. We shouldn't leave her like this, though. She doesn't deserve to spend 11 more hours lying face up with that expression. What, do you want to cover it? Isn't that what you do for corpses? We should prioritize maintaining the crime scene. I don't think so. She died in this room, and cameras recorded it. There's nothing to preserve, and we can give some dignity to her body. Her stance was understandable, and nobody wanted to argue against it. It was possible I'd get in trouble for it, but I went ahead and detached a curtain from the cabinet and laid it over Naomi's body, covering the face that gave away how she'd spent her last moments. Thank you. I'm sure she would have appreciated it. I'm not sure that was a great idea, but now let's make sure to find the person behind this. Doesn't it feel like they're taunting us? Making noise to let us know that they're there and then refusing to appear? But even so, they wouldn't have had a chance to move the Sekimeiya. Can we really be sure? Our priority should be finding them first. I don't think any of us did this. There's a real culprit who murdered Naomi, and is behind the Sekimeiya vanishing. Who knows what else will happen if we don't stop them immediately. I don't know how they did everything, or how they weren't found, but we have to hurry. They're somewhere on a higher floor right now, so let's find them. We left the room behind, and with it, Naomi's corpse, which lay under a beautiful red cloth. She'd lost her life in the tower with us, and yet we knew nothing about her, or the identity and intentions of her murderer. I was trying not to let it get the best of me, but my mind was all over the place. I couldn't allow anything to happen to me and Shiroya, and the moment I'd instantaneously move between places kept replaying in my head. We met up with Edina and Isla, and summoned the few conclusions that we'd been able to draw. Once again, we had 5 doors to go through. Were we going to find anyone a second time? It must have been almost 11 o'clock, implying that someone might have been able to remain unseen for 2 full hours. This is starting to get old, so let's be fast. This person even wants to hide from us, and they're also being recorded by cameras, so our only goal is to find them and question them. Since it couldn't have been any of us, splitting up won't matter. Everyone will make sure a floor is empty, and then stay somewhere outside the partitions. This way, a hiding culprit will only be able to escape by moving between floors, and they'll easily be spotted. After a few minutes, it'll be impossible to have not found them, so we'll all move back to this floor with that person in tow. I don't think this is needed at all. We went up the stairs, followed Arcado. If none of us was the culprit or had ulterior motives, then the plan would work. It was only slightly faster than moving up progressively, but it'd be equally successful. We'll stay here then. Actually, never mind, this arrangement of yours is a great idea. After we checked that nobody was in the bathrooms, Edina and Isla were left behind on floor 2, free to enter the partitions. Sai said he'd inspect and wait on floor 3. I'll look through this one, the rest of you keep going up. With Arcado staying on the 4th floor, Shiroya and I remained on the 5th. Katai was left, with the last one, and said he'd make sure nobody could stay hiding there. We easily looked through our 3 sections, there was nobody there, so we stayed next to the elevator. We'll have to wait then. We can head downstairs whenever Katai comes back. So we have to find someone this time, right? So it must have been on the crystal floor when we heard that noise. I'd say so. Unless they can make it to the attic, the only way we'd miss them is if someone purposefully covers for them. Are you tired? When did you wake up yesterday? Sometime in the afternoon. I'm okay though. Just a bit hungry. Yeah, I'm the same. I'm glad I ate a bit before leaving. Do you not carry cereal bars with you anymore? You always used to have 1 or 2 in your purse. That was at school. I brought the ones I had when I came over, but I finished them off a few days ago. They might not let people take food into the tower anyway. Right, I didn't think about that. I was thinking that if we want to go find that old cabin, we should do it tomorrow. It hasn't snowed in a bit, so that should help us get there. It was pretty far. Are you sure it'll still be there? I don't think I remember how to get to it, and the place must have changed a lot since then. It wasn't that fragile of a cabin. I'm sure it held out against the weather, but maybe the door's buried in snow. We'll have to see. You know, I thought of something earlier. Do you remember Danny? Danny? Danny the tiger? Oh, that stuff thing. Yeah, of course. God, it's been forever. I haven't been able to find him in years. I thought that maybe I left him in that cabin. You think so? You definitely brought him there a few times. Maybe I left something there too. Now I want to go even more. Katai didn't mention a cabin in his story, but I'd be very surprised if it was the same place. There are probably a few similar fields on that mountain. Yeah, I'd be happy if we could find him. I used to have him with me all the time. We need to be well rested then. I'm sure things here will slow down soon. We'll find the person who made that noise and be able to relax. There was a big couch in the lobby, so we might be able to sleep there. She didn't reply. I was doing my best to be optimistic, but we'd already failed to find anyone a few times, and the sight of Naomi's empty eyes must have burned into her own. She dropped her shoulders trying to loosen up, but her posture still looked completely rigid. Our arrangement was efficient, but if the hidden culprit had gone to the 6th floor, for example, Katai could act as if he'd found it empty. Due to the door to the attic, we couldn't prove he'd lied unless we'd had security footage. However, it seemed like Katai was serious about finding the culprit. If he hadn't been making that up, he'd report as part of the search truthfully. As I thought of him, I heard muffled noises coming from above us. They were incredibly faint footsteps we could hear solely because of the pure silence surrounding us, which indicated that Katai was walking through the 6th floor. Alright, it's time for us to wrap this one up because we're out of time for today, but no more time travel. Katai's still pointing the finger at us, Sai's still pointing the finger at Katai, and everyone else is just along for the ride, baby. But there's definitely more time travel going on, which is why shit's happening around us that seems impossible. People are moving and noises are being made in places where there's nobody, and that seems impossible as well. So rather than when we time traveled there being 2 of us in existence at the same time, oh, maybe it was 2 of us in existence at the same time until the point at which the time travel occurred. It seems unlikely. We didn't see ourselves, but you know, we could have just missed it. This place is pretty big. Anyway, I guess we'll find out. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.